Hello there. Welcome to this video where you get to learn more on how you can approach various GMAT questions in the GMAT exam. And in these videos, we do select questions from various topics and we walk through them together with you to show you how you can approach the questions using various strategies as you learn better approaches and also probably gain a better understanding on how you can do so. My name is Joshua Obuya, trainer and a mentor the Kenya Elite Program under the GMAT training section. Welcome aboard and hope you will learn more. Today I'm very excited to bring to you this session on how do you study and be able to prepare for exams in 3 months. In other videos, we've had a lot of seeing how to approach questions, how to solve questions in a study program. But if you don't have this right, I think this is one of the most critical things that any test taker can have as they prepare for the GMAT exam. So you can prepare for exams in 3 months when you're starting off. If starting off completely, don't know so much. Of course, you are GMAT study ready. That means that you are your foundations and the grounding on quant and verbal is pretty much basic. You know what the aspects are. Like for instance, you know what numbers are, you know number forms and some basic operations in math. You're pretty much, let me say, average in math, average in English. Yes, in English. That said means that probably you know like the parts of speech, you're pretty much good at them. So with that said, you can prepare for the exam and be able to pass a GMAT exam in 3 months. But how do you do that? So today we'll look at having a study plan that can work for you. But before I dive into it, why should you listen to this? You can listen to this simply because this is one plan that I used when I was preparing for the GMAT exam and was able to improve my score in a span of 2 months from a 510 score to a 670, though not so important. But the important thing is that we have recommended this study plan to others and they've been able to achieve their target scores. So if you apply it, you have chances of being able to achieve it. So that's why you could listen to it. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. Now, what do you expect in this? Now we'll talk about what should you study. Yeah. We'll also talk about how should you structure studies over the period of your studies. Yeah. Then also talk about how long should you study. For instance, of course, it's 3 months, but will it be longer than 3 months? Will it be shorter than 3 months? We'll look into that. So that's what you can expect. And this will pretty much just give a nutshell of what you should prepare on your end. So before you study, what should you study? You should study the concepts in each topic, which means you need to know which topics are tested in the GMAT exam, which topics are they? And each topic, what concepts do they have? So if you don't have if you don't have access to this, if you use the official guide, you should have a summary of the topics. If you use also the prep providers that are available out there, you can see the topics they have and you can list them down. Yeah, list them down and be able to know that these are the concepts I need to know under each topic. For instance, if you're looking at number properties, which is a big topic in quant, for instance, you need to know what type of integers are there, what type of numbers are there. We have integers, we have fractions, we have decimals, we have, what do you call them also? I think also, there are also irrational numbers, but irrational numbers not really tested per se. What are these number types in this case? Fractions. These actually, they have a numerator, denominator. They could be proper fractions, improper fractions. If they're decimals, it has a decimal point. Of course, that should be, it sounds like a no-brainer, 1.00, 1.12, 0.54. These are all decimal expressions. Then we have integers. These could be positive or negative number. We have even numbers. We have odd numbers, divisible by 2, not divisible by 2. And we have prime numbers as well. So all these number types, you need to know them. And how to identify them also is important. If it is, let's say, verbal, then if it is, let's say, for instance, critical reasoning, then what are we looking at? What are we looking at in critical reasoning? In critical reasonings, what topics are tested in that? We have the types of arguments, an argument and a fact, and also we have the assumption type questions. We have the what do you call them? They're also true/false questions. I'm actually a quant-oriented person, so I tend to find it easier to think of quant concepts off my head compared to verbal. But still, yeah. Assumption questions, strengthening questions, weakening questions. It can also probably just stimulus versus a conclusion or premise and all that. What are those aspects that that. That is the first thing you should know. Once you know the concepts, all the concepts being tested, as much as you can know them. The next is the GMAT exam, you will be dealing with questions. You will actually now go to how to approach each questions. The reason why one comes before the other is in the approach of questions, if you don't know what the concept is, it may be a bit difficult to approach some questions and get them correct. And it's fairly easy. It's been proven to be fairly easier to get questions correctly if you know the concepts than if you don't know what the concepts are. You can just use other methodologies like trying to plug in numbers and so on and so forth and guessing and so on, but it doesn't work as well as if you know the concept. So know the approach to questions. Different questions have different approaches, and each and every question in the GMAT exam can be solved in less than 2 minutes. So therefore, if you don't know what the best approach is, you may take longer, or also you may not actually be able to get it correctly. And in an exam situation, you don't want that, because the moment you are fumbling on how to approach a question, you may start getting anxiety and so on and so forth, and we can all guess what goes down from there. It goes downhill from there. So once you know the concepts in each topic which are to be studied, list them down. Then the next thing is study each and every one of them. Once you've done that, then also you're going to go to look at the approach to each question. Each questions, how are they approached, and how do you approach each question types? You don't really need to go to know what the question types are, but with practice, you get to know.
You are watching Success with Bob Mwiti Show, presented to you by Upstack America. Upstack America is a consulting company that helps immigrants find amazing higher education and job opportunities in the tech industry in the United States. You can find our programs by going to www.upstackamerica.com. Upstack America, we wake you up to the unlimited potential.
Next, now we look at how do you structure your studies. So we're looking at 3 months, but how do you structure the studies? So in the first month, you could look at knowing the concepts. In this period, I discourage students from trying to work through questions, because you'll do questions as long as you haven't done the GMAT exam. And you have a long term, but the concepts, you only have a short term to know them, because once you know them, it builds up to the questions. So the first month, I encourage students to just do the concepts only. Just know what the concepts are. Don't answer questions. And if you have to answer questions, let it not be a primary goal for you to use them. Besides, keep those questions in your arsenal, because you'll use them at a later stage. Just know the concepts. What are the concepts in each topic? In verbal, in quant, what are the concepts being tested? What are they? Know them. Know them by heart. Know as much as possible as you can. Know each of them. Within about 2 to 3 weeks, about not 2 to 3 weeks, but 3 to 4 weeks, which is pretty much the first month, within 3 to 4 weeks, you should be able to move ahead to the next phase. And for you to know if you're good at this, is you should be knowing about, I recommend 90% knowledge of the concepts. You need to know them. Even the most difficult and challenging topics like probability and probability, combinations and permutations, you need to know them. Know all the formulas that are required. Know the formulas that are in each and every concept. Know the relationship between various aspects in a concept. Know all of them, like the matrix or the Venn diagrams and so on and so forth. Need to know all of them with this actually the first month. So focus all the energy in knowing the concepts, and do as much as you can to be able to know the concepts. Once you're able to recall and actually be able to know 90% of all the concepts, then now that is at 3 to 4 weeks. Then now you can move to the second month, which is second month. Now this is basically just now practice and concepts. Yeah. So practice questions. That's what you do in the second month. In the second month, now you can now start looking at questions, because now you have the concepts. You know what the items being tested are all about. Now, how do they appear in a testing format? How do they appear in a test format? So that's when I go to the practice questions and take a look at the questions. Now, here's a question, and you try them out. So you do the questions, and also at the same time, the questions you get wrong, you put them aside, build your error log with it, go back to the concepts and study, why did I get a question wrong? Was it because I didn't know the concept, or I didn't know the approach? If you have the approach right, that's it. You're good. If you don't have an approach right, then which is the better approach to this question? Even if you got a question correct that you during your practice question sessions, and you felt that, probably just take a look and see, did I use the most efficient approach to getting the answer, or is there a better one? That's to do the second one. So in this point, you combine both the practice questions and the concepts. This is because the concepts you need to remind yourself. At times, maybe forgot something. For instance, you may have probably been doing a question and you forgot probably just one property. I use quant a lot because I'm a quant oriented person, and that's what I do train more host on. So let's say now you've done the practice questions and you find that you do not recall the divisibility test of 7, or 11, or whichever number. So then actually to go back and look again and see, of all the divisibility tests, what else do I recall? I don't recall 7, but I recall for 8, I recall for 5, I recall for 7, and so on and so forth. That informs what will be your study session the following day. You go to verbal as well, and you do your verbal questions, and you do a CR, and you find that your challenge in that question, probably you're not able to connect the premises to the conclusion, or you're not able to figure out how to link the premises to the conclusion, or to figure out the assumption in that whole argument. And you need to go back and see, how do these premises and the conclusion link, and how is it bearing out in a way that actually these tests, the examiner puts out that I couldn't see. And you look into that, and that's what you do the second one. And you should do this across questions of all difficulty, from questions of low difficulty to questions of high difficulty. If you're given like question sets to do, how should you actually, how do you fare on that? And how many questions should you do? You should do, I recommend you do the questions the way they are in the exam. For instance, if the verbal section, let's say the verbal section has 45 or 22 questions, and I expect to be doing them in the focus edition, it's supposed to be 22 questions, I think, for the verbal in 45 minutes. That's, I think, I could be wrong, but I suspect this could be it. Quant the same. So you should be getting a collection of 22 questions and do them in 45 minutes. Time yourself. Start timing yourself early, the second month, and work with that time, and make sure that within 45 minutes you've done all the questions. If you didn't have enough time to do that, make sure you see how you can guess and diligently guess and go ahead and finish up, and then you can come back later. Start doing this early, the second month. And once you've done this, in about 3 to 4 weeks again, if you've done it in 3 to 4 weeks again, assess yourself. If you're getting 60%, 60 to 70% of the questions you do correct, across all difficulties, then now you're good. You're good not to move to the next phase. And this should be done within, actually, the second month should be reaching 60 to 70% of the questions you're doing correct in both quant and verbal and data insights. So you should be looking at them and getting them correctly. How about now? When you get to that point, then now you can now start doing your mocks. This is when we get introduced to the exams themselves. How does the exam really look like? How does it feel like? So get to do this now. Here's no way now you start doing now. How does it really play out now, combining both the concepts and exam and actually the practice questions? So here's how you do the mocks, and you should do a mock once every week. Do a mock, then also do practice questions, and we do that, and then also do the concepts. This is because you can't do a mock every day, because you won't be doing exams every day. If you have the time and can do it, I think it's counterintuitive, because it's supposed to be the mocks are actually now you're building up close to the exam, and you'll do the exam only one day. So I recommend doing this only once a week. Once a week, yeah. It's because you need to give yourself time to recover once a week. You need to give yourself time to recover. Give yourself time to also reflect and know what areas that you're doing wrong. You need to also review your strategy and actually revisit and probably come up with a new one if need be in the coming days. So do it once a week. Every other day, do your practice questions and the concepts. If you do your mocks, see which questions you're getting wrong and why are you getting them wrong. Was it because you are under pressure and anxiety and so on and so forth? Then now you can see. At the same time, also, once you've done that one and you reviewed your mocks and you've known the areas that you're having a challenge with, go back again to your concepts and then to practice questions and work on them for the remaining parts of the week. Beyond that, now, again, the following week, again, do another mock and see if there are changes. And you will see changes over time if you apply this. And most likely, at this point in time, you should be getting above 500 in the GMAT exam, if you do your mocks, actually, if you do your mocks. At this point in time, if you followed all these steps and you've met all the milestones, you should be actually be able to be getting at least 550 out of 800 in a mock. Should be able to get that comfortably. It should not be difficult because you're pretty much more than halfway the journey. Yeah, and as time goes by now, you're moving towards the target score. What is the target score? For those actually, and this is talking about somebody who may not have known so much about the GMAT exam and their exam, and actually their training hasn't exposed them to these forms of exam or actual examination. So that's where you should be at that point in time. So your goal is just improving. And if you're not getting 550 and in the 500s, don't worry about it. If you're getting 450s to 500s, don't worry about it. Just look at why am I not getting that score? Why and how can you improve? And just the answer will lie in these areas that you're looking at and what you need to have done, what you ought to have done in the second month or the first month and the second month. That's what the answer will lie. If the challenges you're facing, then now you can go ahead and seek other people to help. That is now with that. So, and the reason why you have it beyond 3 months is simply because maybe it took longer, or for some reason now you want to stay for longer, you want to take a little bit more time to get your target score. So that's what I'm saying, the 3rd month and beyond. So you can do that. And once you're ready, you can book your exams and go ahead and sit for exam. And that's something else also which you can talk about a separate video. So next is, how long should you study? How long should you study? That's the next question that you do have. So for each, you should have the sessions because you're studying on a daily basis. And also have, you're seeing about 3 to 4 months or 3 months plus of studying. And what are you looking out for? So for these milestones part, you've looked at it already in the previous parts. I won't talk about it, but let's look at now study per study session. So it will be recommended that you do study for 5 to 6 days in a week. I recommend 6 days in a week. And in 6 days in a week, you do 2 hours a day. For 6 days a week. For 3 months. 3 months plus. 3 months plus, yeah. Why 2 hours a day? 2 hours a day because the GMAT exam is pretty much 2 hours long. So it's 2 hours, 50 minutes long for the focus edition. For the classic edition, it's 2 hours for the quant and verbal. Then the remaining IR is about 30 minutes, is about another 1 hour, but doesn't contribute to your score. So pretty much you have 2 hours to do the exam. So you should be able to prepare your mind to sit a whole exam without getting fatigued. And that should be 2 hours a day. So you can do actually, if you're doing the concepts only, you can study you can do study for 1 hour. If you're doing the concepts, 1 hour, and then review in the second hour. Review. So 1 hour study, second hour review. Review what you studied. Or else at the same time, also review what you studied previously, then again, also to study what you're supposed to study today. So review what you study and then you study. That's what you should do. In the second month, you can do just 1 hour of virtually questions. And then this is not for practice questions, rather, this is for concept practice questions. 1 hour of questions, and then 1 hour, the hour is actually review. So, as you're doing your practice questions in the second month, you may not be able to do both quant and verbal on the same day. That would be pretty much doing a mock, unless you're doing a mock, that is. But you can just do one section, do like a quant section in 1 day, and then review what you did. Look at the areas you didn't get correct. Then the following day, you can actually have like a longer session for your own studies, for the concepts only. The following day can also, or actually the following day you can do now verbal. Do your verbal practice questions. All the questions tested, like it's 22 for that time required. Do that. Yeah. And so on and so forth as you assess yourself and you proceed until now it reaches a point where now you are able to get all the questions correct. All the questions that you're doing, not all questions correct, but 60% or 70% correct. So that is how we should be doing it. Each and every time we're doing it repetitively and consistently. On 6 days in a week, the 7th day rest, you can choose to do anything else that doesn't pertain to GMAT. Anything else. Do your chores or go out for whatever you want to do. But that day, let your mind just rest. Take a break from GMAT. 5 days, it's not bad, but I think that if you take more than if you take about 2 to 3 days without looking at something, there's something new, you start getting the negative effects of that. So that is what I would recommend. So, and I hope this has some people find it helpful. If you found this helpful, please share with others. These are the things also that you do to train your learning program and also talk about. And should you feel like actually that you may want to get to know more, please feel free to reach out or get in touch with us, and we'll be able to let you know more. Next time, we'll talk about how to assess yourself and also other tips around the exam that you do keep to actually for our own explosive students. But also, keep it tuned, subscribe, and also come back. That should be it for today. Thank you, and see you again next time. Bye.